But yeah, it's a very beautifully designed little mask. That's the plumbing. I apologize. I'm just gonna wait for that to finish. I'm not even sure you'll be able to hear that. You done flushing? You're done flushing. Okay, back to the mask. Here it is. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Player Display. This time we are taking a little look at a little figure, being Omega from the Bad Batch. I've actually owned this figure before, but I just got this new one in the mail as a replacement for the other one, which I used for custom fodder to make a brand new Jawa, so you know what that means if you're a customizer. Crosshair finally got what he wanted. So yeah, that Omega is no longer with us. But yeah, of course I had to get a new Omega to take place of the old one, which I used for fodder. So I figured, hey, I got a brand new figure right out of the box. Might as well go ahead and review it just for the heck of it. But as per usual, we'll start with the box, which looks very good. Again, you got the windowed packaging on the side. You got the profile picture. I always forget to mention the nice colored motif that indicates what show or movie that each character comes from. In this case, red for the Bad Batch, which I really like. I hope that motif continues with the green packaging that we'll be seeing. On the back, you get the profile image again, which is very well rendered. And then you got all the multilingual bios going on here. And it's also worth mentioning that this is the KAMINO variant of Omega, which is inaccurate because of what she comes with, and we will talk about that when we get there. Here we have Omega, which is really, all in all, an excellent figure. It's also the very first human child figure that we've ever seen in the Black Series, so she's kind of a milestone for the franchise, or for the line, rather. This figure is excellent as Omega and as custom fodder for shorter characters like other children. I've seen a lot of people turn this into a young Boba Fett, and of course I turned mine into a Jawa, just because I hate the Jawa mold so much, but yeah, let's get into the figure. She looks absolutely fantastic. One thing that strikes me with the head sculpt is, of course, first of all, it's very well done. It's kind of a nice blend between animated and live action, so it can fit on just about any shelf. The one complaint that people have about this head sculpt, as good as it is for one simple reason: the little amulet right in the center. And that's because she only wears it for the first episode, and from there on out, she's got the rowdy, rough blonde hair flowing in the back, which is one of her staples, I guess, of her looks. So it's a shame that we don't have that head sculpt kind of as a bonus for this figure. I mean, it's kind of been a controversy whenever Black Series, Marvel Legends, or any of those lines releases a figure that's undersized but for full price, as an actually 6-inch figure would be. If you're going to have a little figure like this, you're going to want to accommodate for that with more accessories. It's still a great figure. I mean, I guess on the box they did say it was a KAMINO version, so that's acceptable. On the back, you got a really nice profile here with the hair coming backwards, nice and pointy. It looks very believable. In another world, maybe I'd want a wash on it, but since she comes from an animated show, I actually don't mind that's kind of just flat colored, and then the natural shadowing accents it a little bit. So yeah, I like the head a lot, even though it's not totally accurate to exactly what we'd probably want from a first release Omega figure. On the torso, it's kind of pretty much what we see on all the Jango Fett clones when they are little tykes on Kamino, walking around the platforms and those hallways. But for her, she has very unique colors for whatever reason. We still don't know her origins, except that she was born at the exact same time as Boba Fett, and she is also an unmodified clone that lives the same span as a human being. So there's definitely a lot to learn about her. There's nothing that really gets in the way of articulation either. Again, she's not crazily armored. She's a little kid, so everything comes across very well here. I really like the hands too, just the selection of the gestures and everything. She's got a really very basic gripping hand right there for holding all manners of weapons she can hold. Her crossbow, which we'll look at in a minute. She could probably hold a blaster, although you might want to get an X-Acto blade to that finger so she can hold it a little better, because apparently she's a very good shot, and we don't know why yet. And then all that too, and it kind of comes down to this little skirt piece, I suppose. I mean, that's technically meant to be one piece, and then it's segregated by a belt, and that looks really nice, and it's a little bit on the thick side. It doesn't hinder articulation, it's just that when you move the leg up and you leave it there, it will result in some warping. Like you could see here, it's a little bit stiff. It kind of flexes down. If you plan on getting this particular Omega rather than holding out for the Season 2 version, I'd watch what you do with the legs, just because that skirt piece, it's going to flare up and might get a little bit stuck there. Going down to the legs, again, not a lot to talk about. I mean, little boots. Everybody has boots. Why does nobody in Star Wars land have slippers? And then he got some nice brown pants as well. So, yeah, that's it for the base figure. I mean, it's a little kid, not a whole lot of gear, not a whole lot of story to her yet. We're still learning about who she is, where she comes from. I just wish they'd pick up the pace a little bit on that. So as for the accessories department, it could be better, but it's not bad. I mean, it's pretty much what we expect. Pretty much the highlight accessory, of course, is her crazy crossbow that we got from, I think, the Cathar. Was that the species? I'm thinking Old Republic. I think it was during the Rancor episode. But yeah, it's a really nice piece. It feels very un-Star Wars in a way, but it makes sense because, you know, you're going to different planets, you get different technologies, you get crossbows instead of blasters, so I kind of like this because it's so unconventional. But the sculpt is beautiful, and I love how it's a combination of solid gold, you got a dark gray, and then of course you got that really beautifully executed translucent purple that goes across the what would have been a string and then the arrow, so to speak, but instead it's just like a beam of light. I guess that's technically what comes out of blasters, but condensed into a solid form. I don't know how it works. Does anyone know how it works? It's sci-fi. Nobody knows. Another thing about this that I noticed that's pretty interesting is the two pieces in front of it are removable. I don't really know why. The front tip pulls out of the bow, as does this sort of grid thing, and there's no real reason for that. You'd think that maybe, oh, you could take it apart and you can make a retractable version of the bow that she slings over her back, which I actually plan to do when I find the one that belonged to my old Omega. I could chop it up, fold it in, and then turn it into a retracted version of her bow that she can just sling over her back as an accessory. I actually prefer that over her actually holding the bow. I don't know why. It just seems more natural. Then she could have her two hands to be exploring the world, playing with Ruby, or playing with dirt as she does. It's one of her best character moments, of course. There we go. There's no purpose in taking it off, but if it does fall off, it's really easy to put back on. You could just dab in a little bit of glue in those peg holes and you're good to go. Speaking of Ruby, that is our second accessory, which is very good, but for me, a little bit questionable. I've watched through Bad Batch Season 1 perhaps 3 times by now, and every time I finish watching the show, I, for the life of me, can't pin down the significance of Ruby, let alone her relationship to Omega. Like, yeah, she acknowledges Ruby on a few occasions, and Ruby's not even Omega's pet. She is the pet of that Deveronian pirate that we meet somewhere along the way, who I think appeared in some of the other shows. Yeah, again, that's why titling this Omega KAMINO doesn't really make sense, because a lot of what goes into the accessories of this figure is not from KAMINO, and she's only on KAMINO for that one episode, really. And then they go back, but you know what I mean. Then by then, she's a different Omega. It's kind of an armadillo type of thing going on with the little plates, kind of like leaves or feathers, but it looks very pretty. I like the shininess of it. I'm actually going to bring in my old Ruby from the fodder Omega that I had, because I did weathering to dull coat it down. As you can see here, it's a little bit different. Here's the new one I got fresh out of the box. Here's the one that I just hit with some black, darkened it up a little bit. I don't know which one I prefer, but I definitely prefer less gloss, probably. That's a matter of preference. Again, it was an animated show, so it could really go either way for me, but it's a fine accessory, but again, I just wish that they do something that makes more sense for Omega. Like, one thought that I have is, again, when you have a little figure like this, like Omega or Yoda or Wicket, then you should have accessories that come with them, not just to supplement the figure, but also perhaps the other characters that they be surrounded by. So, of course, if you're going to have Omega, you got to have Wrecker. What does Wrecker love? That little doll Lula, I think? So that would have been a really nice accessory to come with Omega, even though it's not necessarily hers, but then if you get her and Wrecker, then Lula would be a good almost incentive to build the team up. So, I don't know. Who has a personal connection to Ruby? I think people are more connected to Lula and some of the other objects that Omega holds throughout the show. Even if they just had her holding dirt in this hand, I'd really appreciate that little nod to that sweet, tender little moment in the show. And there is one more accessory, which I think is actually my favorite. I said that about the crossbow. Damn it. Well, I also like this one. And it is a little respirator, which, again, not from KAMINO, but it's very good. This is from when I think there were toxins spilling in the air or something like that. And I think it was also worn by Crosshair when he was kind of blowing the crap up in one of the episodes when they were kind of in that ship turbine. I almost want an alternate Crosshair head sculpt where he's bald, half of his head is scarred, and then he's wearing the mask, and then he has the wraps going around his head. That's a custom I was thinking of doing. So now that I got 2 of these, that's in the cards. I might do that one day. When you want to put on the mask, it's actually really easier than you might think, because the inside is conformed to fit with the nose, and it pops right on. And it just stays on solely with friction and pressure, and doesn't shake off at all. For articulation, this is pretty lickety split. I mean, you got the usual 2 joints in the neck, that much down, that much up. Got a little bit down the abs. Obviously, they're not doing a too good job of that lately, but a lot back. They can do a lot of back these days. Shoulder goes up, down, and around. You got a deeper cut, even though it is a smaller figure, and that allows her to get a hair past 90. The wrists are actually different. This one goes in and out. This one goes up and down. Haha, I think I got the wrist thing down now. Do a little bit of a swivel too at the waist right down here. There's actually no crunch. It's really just a ball joint that's coming up into there, as you probably see with a 3.75-inch scale figure. So that makes sense because she is on the smaller side. Thigh swivels in there that are kind of hidden under that skirt piece. You got single knee joints that go past 90. I actually didn't notice this joint until I got this second Omega, but there is actually a swivel right above the boot. So you got a swivel right here as the thigh ends at that spot, but then you also have an additional swivel right here just over the boot. I don't know why they have that. I mean, one's enough, but whatever, the more the merrier, I suppose. As for the ankle, it goes down, goes up, both very well done, and then got rocker that goes all the way around the world, so very good. That's literally it for Omega. There's not a whole ton to talk about, not because she's necessarily a bad figure or anything, but she's a little figure with a few accessories, and she's very well executed. I like her a lot, so now we're going to have to zoom out and do our usual size comparisons. So give me a minute here. We have a lot to look at, so let me just take some time to set this up. Bear with me for a moment. This is taking too damn long. Come on, Echo. Let's get you over here. And here we go. We've got the full Bad Batch very clumsily lined up against Omega, and they look very good together. As you can see, pretty much everybody here except Omega and Rex is very highly customized. But yeah, the main part here is she's very well She's very well scaled with everybody. Of course, everybody, for the most part, is about 6 inches in height, as they should be. And then you got Omega, the little one, and then you got Wrecker, the big boy. So, yeah, everybody lines up just fine. The only one here that we're missing is Crosshair, because I actually never got a hold of the variant of him that existed before he went full Stormtrooper mode. And speaking of Stormtrooper mode, here we have the new version of Crosshair that I think was a Walmart exclusive, and next to the War Mantle Elite clone troopers off to the side. Although they're not clone troopers, are they, really? As we came to learn from the show. I know this has nothing to do with Omega, but I have to say right now that, bar none, Crosshair is my favorite character in the show, and perhaps in all the animated shows combined. He's just absolutely spectacular. I can't wait to see where he goes. And just for fun, though not without reason, here we have her with the original Bad Batch, which was Delta Squad from the Republic Commando games. And I gotta say, as controversial as these figures are, I'm actually very satisfied with them. And they lack my usual custom weathering because I am waiting on Scorch, who is my favorite of the squad. And then when I have them all together, then I'll weather them so it looks like they were going through the same environment. The visors will be consistent, so I'll get to them one day. And here she is with the NECA Jungle Hunter Predator, because why the hell not? And because she's so tiny and she comes with a little friend, we have to bring in our other little guys as per usual. We have Baby Yoda, the child, Grogu, whoever you want to call him at this point, and Muk Muk, because Muk Muk is life. And that's pretty much all there is to say about Omega. All around, very solid figure. By no means disappointing, even though I said that maybe she should come with some other accessories to complement the rest of the Bad Batch. But all in all, for a first release of a character that we just met, she's pretty good. I mean, she comes with some key items that represent certain episodes throughout the show, so that makes her very adaptable to different situations that we get to see. Then, of course, you got Ruby, who, again, she's not that important of a character to the show or very relevant to Omega to begin with, but it's nice to have a cute little critter to add to the gallery. And I think it'll be really interesting to see Omega grow up not only over the course of the show, but over the course of the franchise. So this might be one of the first times where we get a character who we first meet as a child, and we get to see them grow up, and we get a figure for each stage of their life. I guess the only other character that would fulfill that role would perhaps be Ahsoka and maybe Anakin, although there was kind of a time jump between Phantom and clones. It'll be interesting to see the destiny of this very mysterious female Boba Fett and see where she ends up. I'm really curious to see what her legacy is and where the Bad Batch ends up by the time the show ends in hopefully a very long time from now. But god damn it, I love Crosshair. Really want to see where he goes. So that's about it for this review. Thanks very much for watching. Go in the comments and let me know who you prefer. Do you prefer Delta Squad or do you prefer the Bad Batch? Nothing else to say. More reviews to come. I'm going to do some custom showcases, maybe a few tutorials here and there. Thanks very much for watching this video. Hopefully you liked it, and I will see you all later. Probably my only thing that really bugs me about this character is it's very clear that she's immensely brilliant and knows so much more than the Bad Batch could ever know. So why is it that at no point in the show has she disclosed all the super secret information and intel that she has? I mean, yeah, Kamino's gone now, but to think it would be a little bit useful if she opened her mouth a bit more on those matters. Yeah, she's a kid still learning about the galaxy and all, but there's a lot going on in there, you know? There's gotta be something. Ironically enough, you haven't seen either of these three in Bad Batch yet, but we have seen Scorch in Bad Batch. Although we don't have the figure of him just yet. Like, yeah, I got him on pre-order now, but to think that they'd release him a little sooner so he'd also line up with the Bad Batch figures as they were coming out. Again, it was just a cameo. He might as well have been just a generic Republic commando floating among the rest of the ranks. Sad, sad day for me. It's almost bedtime. See, the reason why I'm so quiet is because I know when I go to editing, I can crop out the dead silence and you won't be totally bored. I should also mention this claw that came with Echo. I really hope that becomes something because, come on, this is just unfair. Give the man an arm for Pete's sake. Unreadables that nobody cares about on the bottom. Ironic how those unreadables on all the action figure boxes are meant to prevent children from choking on an action figure's head. But then again, those are the children who can't read anyways. So who are those for exactly? Crap. Come on. Nope. Nope. I'm trying to hit that morbidity. Give me a second here. No. No. Oh, we're getting there. Nope. Nope. Good enough, I'll take it.